We are, for those of you keeping track, we are on page 8, and we're going to go ahead and overlap it just a smidge so we remember where we were, okay? I like to do that. You guys like to do that when you read?
Yes.
Like back up a paragraph or two? The chatter. Guys, the chatter. I like that you guys are talkative. Just direct it toward the book with everybody in mind, okay? Is everybody back?
Yes.
Is that door open still? Who came in last? Were you raised in a barn or something? Huh? Close the barn door. Goodness. Some people's kids. All right. We're going to start back at the first paragraph that starts on page 8, just so we remember where we are, all right? The outer shell burned away and sloughed off unevenly, for I tumbled. Then the rest of it went, and I straightened out. The turbulence brakes of the second shell bit in, and the ride got rough, and still rougher as they burned off one at a time, and the second shell began to go to pieces. So they're coming down in this capsule. It's melting away as it goes through the atmosphere, right? One at a time. One of the things that helps a capsule trooper live long enough to draw a pension is that the skins peel away off his capsule not only slow him down, they also fill the sky over the target area with so much junk that radar picks up reflections from dozens of targets for each man in the drop. Any one of which could be a man or a bomb or anything. It's enough to give a ballistics computer nervous breakdowns, and does. What did we just learn about the enemy?
They have bombs.
They have radar. They have computer guidance. Good. So we're getting close to where we left off. Perfect. To add to the fun, your ship lays down a series of dummy eggs in the seconds immediately following your drop. Dummies that will fall faster because they don't slough off. They get under you, explode, throw out window, even operate as transponders, rocket sideways, and do other things to add to the confusion of your reception committee on the ground. In the meantime, your ship is locked firmly on the directional beacon of the platoon leader, ignoring the radar noise it has created and following you in, computing your impact for future use. Okay? You guys don't think a quick whisper here and there is distracting. If it's distracting me, and you guys are way back there, it's probably distracting the other people who are trying to listen to the story right next to you. Sit up. Up. Like your butt firmly planted in the seat. Up. When the second shell was gone, the third shell automatically opened my first ribbon chute. It's like a parachute, but it's just a strap of fabric that's going to be flapping like crazy in the breeze, but it will slow it down. It didn't last long, but it wasn't expected to. One good hard jerk at several G, and it went its way, and I went mine. A second chute lasted a little bit longer, and the third chute lasted quite a while. It began to be rather too warm inside the capsule, and I started thinking about landing. The third shell peeled off when its last chute was gone, and now I had nothing around me but my suit armor and a plastic egg. I was still strapped inside it, unable to move, and it was time to decide how and where I was going to ground. Without moving my arms, because I couldn't, I thumbed the switch for a proximity reading and read it when it flashed on in the instrument reflector inside my helmet in front of my forehead. What does that sound like? Huh? Rearview mirror, okay. But it's like in his helmet. In the 50s and 60s, they were starting to experiment with this. It's called a heads-up display.
Oh, they are.
So they're putting the information you need to read right there where you can see it. And then, more modernly, and in this sci-fi, it's actually projected inside the helmet for them to read the information they need. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It's like the new Meta Ray-Ban.
Yes! Yes, like the smart glasses. Yeah. All right, cool. I've never used one, but do they have stuff reading out on the inside?
Yeah, they're making ones with like screens now.
Okay. On the inside of your glasses.
Apple Vision Pro.
So you'd be able to like read the news while you're walking around?
Yeah.
I feel like that'd be distracting. Anyway, the first cut Well, I skipped a paragraph. 1 mile and 8/10, a little closer than I liked, especially without company. The inner egg had reached steady speed no more help to be gained by staying inside it. And its skin temperature indicated that it would not open automatically for a while yet. So it's not doing him any good, but it's not going to blow away for a while. So what does he do? He flipped a switch with his other thumb and got rid of it. The first charge, in other words, an explosive charge, cut all the straps. The second charge exploded the plastic egg away from me in 8 separate pieces, and I was outdoors, sitting on air, and could see. Better still, the 8 discarded pieces were metal coated, except for the small bit I had taken proximity reading through, and would give back the same reflection as an armored man. Any radar viewer, alive or cybernetic, would now have a sad time sorting me out from the junk nearest me, not to mention the thousands of other bits and pieces for miles on each side, above and below. Part of the mobile infantryman's training is to let him see from the ground, and both by eye and by radar, just how confusing a drop is to the forces on the ground, because you feel awful naked up here. It's easy to panic and either open a chute too soon and become a sitting duck, or fail to open it and break your ankles. Likewise, backbone and skull. So if they went on one of these jumps and they had never seen what it looks like from below, you get the sensation that I'm just like floating up here. I'm an easy target. I'm going to die. So you panic. But in their training, he says they look at it from the other side. They see a jump with their eyes and on a radar screen, and they understand that the enemy actually can't see them very easily. Does that make sense? There's just so much going on. So I stretched, kicked out the kinks, and looked around. Then doubled up again and straightened out into a swan dive, face down, and took a good look. So he did this, you know, in the movies, you ever see when they skydive and they put their arms down to their sides and they like dive down, right? Makes them go faster. Did we talk about terminal velocity yesterday in this class? Fantastic. It's hard to keep track of what I do in different classes because they're not all the same. It was night down there as planned, but infrared snoopers let you size up terrain quite well after you are used to them. The river that cut diagonally through the city was almost below me and coming up fast, shining out clearly with a higher temperature than the land. So it's infrared, right? His snoopers, his night vision is actually infrared. I didn't care which side of it I landed on, but I didn't want to land in it. It would slow me down. I noticed a flash to the right at my altitude. Some unfriendly native down below had burned what was probably a piece of my egg. Burned, I guess, means shot at, like destroyed, with whatever weapons they're using. So I fired my first shoot at once, intending, if possible, to jerk myself right off of his radar screen as he followed the targets down in closing range. I braced for the shock, rode it, then floated down for about 20 seconds before unloading the chute, not wishing to call attention to myself in still another way by not falling at the speed of the other stuff around him. So if the enemies are watching and everything's falling at the same speed and all of a sudden you see something falling slower, what do they might think that is? What might they think that is? Somebody coming down, person using a parachute. So he cut it loose to continue to fall. It must have worked. I wasn't burned. About 600 feet up, I shot the second chute, saw very quickly that I was being carried over into the river, found that I was going to pass about 100 feet up over a flat-roofed warehouse or some such by the river, blew the chute free, and came in for a good enough, if rather bouncy landing on the roof by means of the suit's jump jets. So imagine this, you've got like some sort of jump jets maybe strapped to your legs or part of the suit, and it kind of slowed the descent. Also, if they're jumping, they can use those to increase the effectiveness and distance of the jump. Does that make sense? Okay. Later, we're gonna read about them jumping around, and they're using those jump jets to extend the jump, make the jump longer. And in video games, you know, you can do the double jump thing, like jump midair. I don't know how that works in the games when they don't have anything like this. They're using jump jets to do that. I was scanning for Sergeant Jalal's beacon as I hit, just like he was supposed to, right? As soon as they were hit, he was supposed to be looking for the platoon leader's beacon, yes? And I found that I was on the wrong side of the river. Jelly's star showed up on the compass ring inside my helmet far south of where it should have been. I was too far north. I trotted toward the riverside of the roof as I took a range and bearing on the squad leader next to me. Found that he was over a mile out of position. Ace, dress your line. He tossed a bomb behind me I tossed a bomb behind me as I stepped off the building and across the river. Ace answered as I could have expected. Ace should have had my spot, but he didn't want to give up his squad. Nevertheless, he didn't fancy taking orders from me. Guys, this guy Ace is a career corporal, and Johnny is just in a spot over him. So he's lower ranking, but in this position, he's supposed to be bossing Ace around. Do you think Ace would like that? He outranks Johnny, but he has to take orders from him right now. So that might be some cause for conflict. Let's see. The warehouse went up behind me, and the blast hit me while I was still over the river, instead of being shielded by the buildings on the far side, as I should have been. It darn near tumbled my gyros, and I came close to tumbling myself. I had set the bomb for 15 seconds, or had I? I suddenly realized that I'd let myself get excited, the worst thing you can do once you're on the ground. Just a drill. That was the way, just as Jelly had warned me. Take your time and do it right, even if it takes another half second. As I hit, I took another reading on Ace and told him again to realign his squad. He didn't answer, but he was already doing it. I let it ride. As long as Ace did his job, I could afford to swallow his surliness for now. Surliness means he's what? If somebody's surly about something. No, he's upset. Is Ace happy to be taking orders from somebody he outranks? No, he's surly about it. He's upset about it. But Johnny's like, I'll tolerate it right now. We're in the middle and I can't deal with it right now. But back aboard ship, if Jelly kept me on as assistant section leader, we would eventually have to pick up quiet spot and find out who was boss. He was a career corporal, and I was just a term lance acting as corporal, but he was under me, and you can't afford to take any lip under those circumstances, not permanently. But I didn't have time then to think about it. While I was jumping the river, I had spotted a juicy target, and I wanted to get it before somebody else noticed it. A lovely big group of what looked like public buildings on a hill. Temples, maybe, or a palace. They were miles outside the area we were sweeping, but one rule of a smash and run is to expend at least half your ammo outside your sweep area. That way the enemy is kept confused as to where you actually are. That, and keep moving. Do everything fast. You're always heavily outnumbered. Surprise and speed are what save you. And being awake. Being awake might save you too. I was already loading my rocket launcher while I was checking on Ace and telling him for the second time to straighten up. Jelly's voice reached me right on top of that on the all-hands circuit. Platoon, by leapfrog, forward. My boss, Sergeant Johnson, echoed, by leapfrog, odd numbers, advance. That left me with nothing to worry about for 20 seconds. So I jumped up on the building nearest me, raised the launcher to my shoulder, found the target, and pulled the first trigger to let the rocket have a look at its target. Pulled the second trigger and kissed it on its way, jumped back to the ground. Second section, even numbers, I called out, waited for the count in my mind, and ordered advance. So this rocket he just launched, it had two triggers. So the first trigger, he points generally at what he wants it to see and target. So he pulls the trigger, that locks that rocket's guidance system onto the target. Does that make sense? So the first trigger locks it on. Second trigger launches it. It's self-guided at this point. It's finding its own way to the target. So what can Johnny do? Go on to the next thing. He doesn't have to worry. It's what we call a fire and forget weapon. Have you ever heard that term before? Anybody play video games, military style? A fire and forget weapon is one that you aim, but then it locks on. And once you launch it, you don't have to keep the target on, right? It's not like a wire guide, like a Hellfire missile, where you have to keep pointing at the target for the missile to track. Does that make sense? Fire and forget. Where was I? And he advanced himself, hopping over the next row of buildings, and while I was in the air, fanning the first row by the riverfront with a hand flamer. They seemed to be wood construction, and it looked like time to start a good fire. With luck, some of those warehouses would house oil products or even explosives. As I hit, the Y rack on my shoulders launched 2 small HE bombs, a couple of 100 yards each way to my right and left flanks, but I never saw what they did as just then my first rocket hit. That unmistakable, if you've ever seen one, brilliance of an atomic explosion. It was just a peewee, of course, less than 2 kilotons nominal yield, with tamper and implosion squeeze to produce results from a less than critical mass. But then who wants to be bunkmates with a cosmic catastrophe? So that guided rocket he launched had an atomic warhead on it, but it was small. And he's saying it's small for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's a tactical nuke, so it's meant to be to eliminate smaller areas. And aren't they kind of close-ish to them going off? If it was any bigger, there's a chance they'd be irradiated, yes? So that's why he says nobody wants to be bunkmates with a cosmic catastrophe. In other words, nobody wants you to, sleeping next to somebody that's irradiated. It was enough to clean off the hilltop and make everybody in the city take shelter against fallout. Better still, any of the local yokels who happen to be outdoors and looking that way wouldn't be seeing anything for a couple of hours, meaning me. The flash hadn't dazzled me, nor would it dazzle any of us. Our face bowls, face shields, face masks, what would you call it? Huh? Helmet? The face shield, the actual face mask part, right? Are shielded, heavily leaded. We wear snoopers over our eyes, and we're trained to duck and take it on the armor if we do happen to be looking the wrong way. So he's saying that the locals that had been outside are probably blinded from the flash because it's so bright. In the military, depending, I guess, your MOS or whatever branch, when I went through, they trained us if there was an atomic blast nearby. If it's too close, you're just dead, right? You're not going to have time to worry about it. But if you see it occur, isn't it going to be sending a shockwave and potentially debris at you, right? Yeah. So you're going to actually point towards it and lay down facing it because what's the most heavily armored part of our bodies? The head. You're wearing a helmet, right? And then, yeah, you might have body armor on, so at least Kevlar up over the shoulders. And then you'd have, if you're wearing a plate carrier and you have a plate, you have Gore-Tex or Kevlar, front, back. So if you're pointing towards the detonation and you get hit by stuff, hopefully, maybe, question mark, you'll be okay, or at least better. Like landing on you? Yeah. Then you're going to die. You do the best you can, right? If you can find a hole to crawl into, you'd probably be finding a hole to crawl into. Anybody ever see that movie with Wolverine? The one with the nuke? And they dive into the hole. I mean, you can find any place to take cover. And of course, he was close. And he was like sheltering the other guy, right? Yeah. And like, it's Wolverine, so he's got the regenerative ability and is like burned him off real bad, but then he healed constantly as it would continue. Ooh, man. Because Wolverine still feels pain, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, another science fiction thing. Fun. So I merely blinked hard, opened my eyes, and stared straight at a local citizen just coming out of an opening in the building ahead of me. He looked at me, I looked at him, and he started to raise something. It's nighttime, remember. He's using night vision goggles. Is he sure what he's raising? Can you hesitate? A weapon, I suppose. As Jelly called out, odd numbers advance. I didn't have time to fool them. I was a good 500 yards short of where I should have been by then. So he's behind, right? He's behind. He's failing to keep up. I still had the hand flamer in my left hand. I toasted him and jumped over the building he had been coming out of as I started to count. A hand flamer is primarily for incendiary work, which means it sets fires, right? But it is a good defensive anti-personnel weapon in tight quarters. You don't have to aim it much. Guys, if some people, if they read that paragraph, he's almost casual about it. That doesn't mean he takes it lightly, that he literally just burned somebody alive. It means that he's got to keep moving, or he does what too? Or he's going to die too, okay? As we continue, we're going to see a couple of times where it's like, is Johnny just a ruthless killer? And it's like, no, we know better. He's just doing his job. Between excitement and anxiety to catch up, I jumped too high and too wide. It's always a temptation to get the most out of your jump gear, but don't do it. It leaves you hanging in the air for seconds, a big fat target. The way to advance is to skim over each building as you come to it, barely clearing it, and taking full advantage of cover while you're down, and never stay in one place more than a second or two. Never give them time to target in on you. Be somewhere else, anywhere, keep moving. So if you think to like military movies and like training movies, when they go over the wall on the obstacle course, don't they stay really low to the wall? There's a reason for that, right? That they're training to not be a big, fat, exposed target, a low silhouette at all times. When we train to advance from one place to another as you're going towards your objective, you leapfrog each other like they're doing in the book, and you don't stay up long. You're down behind cover, you sprint for a next piece of cover, something to take shelter behind, and you're only up for a couple of seconds. In your mind, you're literally saying to yourself, I'm up, they see me, I'm down. Does that make sense? So they don't have a chance to actually aim at you. This one I goofed. Too much for one row of buildings, too little for the row behind it. I found myself coming down on a roof, but not a nice flat one where I might have tarried 3 seconds to launch another Pee-wee A rocket. This roof was a jungle of pipes and stanchions and assorted ironmongery. A factory, maybe. Or some sort of chemical works. No place to land. Worse still, half a dozen natives were up there. These geezers are humanoid, 8 or 9 feet tall, much skinnier than we are, and with a higher body temperature. They don't wear any clothes, and they stand out in a set of snoopers like a neon sign. You guys have seen infrared, right? So they're going to be glowing in his snoopers. They look still funnier in daylight with your bare eyes, but I would rather fight them than the arachnids. Those bugs make me queasy. If these laddies were up there 30 seconds earlier when my rocket hit, then they couldn't see me or anything. They would have been blinded, right? The flash. But I couldn't be certain and didn't want to tangle with them in any case. It wasn't that kind of a raid. So I jumped again while I was still in the air. He jumped while he was still in the air. Double jump, like in your video games, right? Because he has the jump jets. Yes. And called out, second section, even numbers, advance. So the odds had landed. He was one of the odds. Now he's telling the evens to advance. I keep losing my spot. Every other word, it seems like. And kept right on going to close the gap. While trying to spot, every time I jumped, something worth expending a rocket on. So every time he's jumping, he's looking around, he's trying to find something worthy of using one of these expensive rockets. I had 3 more of the little A rockets, and I certainly didn't intend to take any back with me, but I had pounded into me that you must get your money's worth with atomic weapons. It was only the second time that I had been allowed to carry them. So they don't give them to like fresh recruits. They don't know what they're doing with them. So he's been around long enough. They're trusting him with atomic weapons now. Right now, I was trying to spot their waterworks. Guys, what's a waterworks? Like a well? A dam? Where they get their water from. A waterworks is a water treatment facility. So well, here, I'll let him tell you. He was looking for their waterworks. A direct hit on it could make the whole city uninhabitable, force them to evacuate it without directly killing anyone. Just the sort of nuisance we had been sent down to commit. It should, according to the map we have studied under hypnosis, be about 3 miles upstream from where I was. But I couldn't see it. My jumps didn't take me high enough, maybe. I was tempted to go higher, but I remembered what Migliaccio, chaplain, had said about not trying for a medal and stuck to doctrine. I set the Wyrack launcher on automatic and let it lob a couple of little bombs every time I hit. I set fire to things more or less at random in between and tried to find the waterworks or some other worthwhile target. Well, there was something up there at the proper range, waterworks or whatever. It was big. So I hopped on top of the tallest building near me, took a bead on it, and let fly. As I bounced down, I heard Jelly, "Johnny, Red, start bending in the flanks." So they've been advancing in line, and now the platoon leader says, "All right, start to do what? Start to converts on the other end with the other flanker." Remember that word encirclement? Or they used the word envelop, didn't they? They're starting to turn those sides in to close in around the area. I acknowledged and heard Red acknowledge and switched my beacon to blinker so that Red could pick me out for certain. Took a range and bearing on his blinker while I called out, "Second section, curve in and envelop." Squad leaders acknowledge. 4th and 5th squads answered. "Wilco," Ace said, "we're already doing it. Pick up your feet." Oh, ooh. Wilco means what? Anybody know? Wilco means will comply. So somebody gives you an order or tells you to do something. If you're like, "Okay, I will," you just say, "will comply," Wilco. But Ace said, "We're already doing it. Pick up your feet." So he was already doing what was to come next, but he was doing it before he was told to by Johnny. He wasn't waiting for his leader to give him instructions. How do you think that's going to go down? Very good. We've got some interpersonal issues, don't we? Red's beacon showed the right flank to be almost ahead of me and a good 15 miles away. Golly, Ace was right. I would have to pick up my feet or I would never close the gap in time. And me, with a couple of hundredweight of ammo and sundry nastiness still on me, that I just had to find time to use up. So even though Ace might not have been doing the right thing as far as communicating with him, Johnny realizes, well, he's right. He's behind. We had landed in a V formation with Jelly at the bottom of the V and Red and myself at the ends of the two arms. So they weren't in a perfect straight line. Now we had to close it into a circle around the retrieval rendezvous, which meant that Red and I each had to cover more ground than the others and still do our full share of damage. At least the leapfrog advance was over with once we started to encircle. I could quit counting and concentrate on speed. It was getting to be less healthy to be anywhere, even moving fast. What does that mean? It was getting less healthy to be anywhere. They know they're there. They've been there, like, blowing stuff up for a while now, so the enemy is starting to react to them, right? Yeah, it's getting dangerous. They've been there too long. We had started with the enormous advantage of surprise, reached the ground without being hit. At least I hope nobody had been hit coming in, and had been rampaging in among them in a fashion that let us fire at will without fear of hitting each other, while they stood a big chance of hitting their own people and shooting at us, if they could find us to shoot at all. I'm no games theory expert, but I doubt if any computer could have analyzed what we were doing in time to predict where we would be next. Nevertheless, the home defenses were beginning to fight back. coordinated or not. I took a couple of near misses with explosives, close enough to rattle my teeth even inside armor, and once I was brushed by some sort of beam that made my hair stand on end and half paralyzed me for a moment, as if I had hit my funny bone, but all over. If the suit hadn't already been told to jump, I guess I wouldn't have gotten out of there. So they have some kind of an energy beam that the enemy is firing at them. Things like that make you pause to wonder why you ever took up soldiering. Only I was too busy to pause for anything. Twice jumping blind over buildings, I landed right in the middle of a group of them. Jumped at once while fanning wildly around me with the hand flamer. Spurred on this way, I closed about half of my share of the gap, maybe 4 miles, in minimum time, but without doing much more than casual damage. My Y-rack had gone empty 2 jumps back. Finding myself alone in sort of a courtyard, I stopped to put my reserve HE bombs into it. Remember high explosives? While I took a bearing on Ace, found that I was far enough out in front of the flank squad to think about expending my last 2 A-bombs. I jumped to the top of the tallest building in the neighborhood. It was getting light enough to see. I flipped the snoopers up onto my forehead and made a fast scan with bare eyes, looking for anything behind us worth shooting at, anything at all. I had no time to be choosy. Are we all talking about the rain? It's raining. Enough said. There was something on the horizon in the direction of their spaceport. Administration and control maybe, or possibly even a starship. Almost in line and about half as far away was an enormous structure which I couldn't identify even that loosely. The range to the spaceport was extreme, but I let the rocket see it, said, "Go find it, baby," and twisted its tail. Slapped the last one in, sent it toward the nearer target, and jumped. So he just expended his last 2 A rockets. That building took a direct hit just as I left it. Either a skinny had judged correctly that it was worth one of their buildings to try for one of us, or one of their own mates was getting mighty careless with fireworks. Either way, I didn't want to jump from that spot. Even a skimmer. A low jump. I decided to go through the next couple of buildings instead of over them. So I grabbed the heavy flamer off my back as I hit and flipped the snoopers down over my eyes, tackled a wall in front of me with a knife beam at full power. A section of wall fell away and I charged in. A knife beam? His suit's got the Iron Man thing that... Right? Remember in Iron Man, was it Iron Man 2 or 3, where he had the triangle thing and he spun around and it like leveled the trees? Do you remember that? As like a knife beam, I guess. They have those. So he, rather than going over the buildings, he decided to go through them. He says he tackled a wall. So he used some sort of a laser beam on his suit to like weaken it, and then he charged through the wall. That's kind of neat. Man, they need to make this into a movie. But you know, a good one. Okay. So I grabbed the heavy flamer. So hand flamer is a small flamethrower. Apparently he's got like a full-size flamethrower on his back. So he grabs that, goes through the buildings. A section of wall fell away and I charged in. And backed out even faster. Why would you charge into a building and then, oh, something's in there he doesn't want to have anything to do with. I didn't know what it was I had cracked open. A congregation in church, a skinny flop house, maybe even their defense headquarters. All I knew was it was a very big room filled with more skinnies than I wanted to see in my whole life. Probably not a church, for somebody took a shot at me as I popped back out. Just a slug that bounced off my armor, made my ears ring, and staggered me without hurting me. But it reminded me that I wasn't supposed to leave without giving them a souvenir of my visit. I grabbed the first thing on my belt and lobbed it in, and heard it start to squawk. As they keep telling you in basic, do something constructive at once is better than figuring out the best thing to do hours later. I've heard that a lot of times over the years. You might have heard this. A good plan executed quickly is better than a perfect plan that takes forever to figure out. And then by the time you do it, it's like too late, right? You ever heard something like that, kind of, sort of? By sheer chance, I had done the right thing. This was a special bomb, one each issued to us for this mission with instructions to use them if we found ways to make them effective. The squawking I heard as I threw it was the bomb shouting in skinny talk, free translation, "I'm a 30-second bomb. I'm a 30-second bomb." 29, 28, 27. It was supposed to frazzle their nerves. Maybe it did. It certainly frazzled mine. Kinder to shoot a man. Kinder, not kinder. Kinder to shoot a man. I didn't wait for the countdown. I jumped. While I wondered whether they would find out, whether they would find enough doors and windows to swarm out in time. He's actually worried. Remember, they weren't supposed to kill if they could help it. But there's a lot of them, and he's taking shots, so he throws this thing in there that's telling them, hey, I'm a 30-second bomb. So they're trying to get out. That's what he wants. He wants to cause chaos and fear, right? But he's like, I wonder if there's enough windows and doors for them to get out of in time. Why would you have that thought? Unless you were kind of like, well, I guess you could have a sick side too. Like hoping they wouldn't have enough. But I don't get that impression from him, do you? I got a bearing on Red's blinker at the top of the jump and one on Ace as I grounded. I was falling behind again. Time to hurry. But 3 minutes later, we had closed the gap. I had Red on my left flank, a mile away. He reported it to Jelly. We heard Jelly's relaxed growl to the entire platoon. Circle is closed, but the beacon is not down yet. Move forward slowly and mill around. Make a little more trouble, but mind the lad on each side of you. Don't make trouble for him. In other words, be careful not to shoot each other. Good job so far. Don't spoil it. Platoon, by sections, muster. So they're closing in. They have to like kind of stall a little bit longer because the beacon hasn't dropped yet. It looked like a good job to me, too. Much of the city was burning, and although it was almost full light now, it was hard to tell whether bare eyes were better than snoopers. The smoke was so thick. So it's light starting to come up. But have you ever been in a case where you're like, do I want my sunglasses on or off? Because it's kind of like, well, you guys aren't driving yet. Once you guys are driving, you are, oh yeah, you are. So have you ever been driving and the sun's going down, or maybe it just came up and it's bright, so you want sunglasses on, but then you dip behind like a tree line and then it's too dark for sunglasses, then you got to take them off. You know what I'm saying? It's like on the edge of needing them. That's where they are right now with the snoopers. Johnson, our section leader, sounded off. Second section, call off. I echoed. Squads 4, 5, and 6, call off and report. The assortment of safe circuits we had available and the new model comm units certainly speeded things up. Jelly could talk to anyone or to his section leaders. A section leader could call his whole section or his non-coms, and the platoon could muster twice as fast when seconds mattered. I listened to the 4th squad call off while I inventoried my remaining firepower and lobbed one bomb toward a skinny who poked his head around a corner. He left, and so did I. Mill around, the boss had said. That's dangerous, right? You're milling around, you're becoming a target. The 4th squad bumbled the call off until the squad leader remembered to fill in with Jenkins' number. The 5th squad clicked off like an abacus and began to feel good. Then, when the call-off stopped after number 4 in Ace's squad, I called out, Ace, where's Dizzy? Shut up, he said. Number 6, call off. 6, Smith answered. 7, 6 squad, Flores missing, Ace completed it. Squad leader out for pickup. 1 man absent, I reported to Johnson. Flores, squad 6. Missing or dead? I don't know. Squad leader and assistant section leader dropping out for pickup. Johnny, you let Ace take it. Okay, a lot to break down there. Johnny asks for Ace's section report. Ace says, shut up. Does he mean it disrespectfully right now? No, he probably still don't want to say it that way, but really he's trying to find his people. Johnny is asking for a report. Hey, do you have everyone? Is everybody safe? And Ace is like, shut up, I'm looking. And it turns out that Flores is missing. So Ace and his assistant section leader are going to go look. So now Johnny is reporting back to the platoon leader and letting him know, hey, yeah, we got everybody but one. And they're going to get him. And then the last line, Johnny, you let Ace take it, is the platoon leader saying, stay out of his business. Don't go do it yourself. Let him do his job. But I didn't hear him, so I didn't answer. Did he not hear him? You ever done that? Oh, I didn't hear you, sorry. But you totally heard them? I don't know yet, but that's what he said. He said what, he knows what he said. He said, but I didn't hear him, so I didn't answer. I heard him report to Jelly, and I heard Jelly cuss. Now look, I wasn't bucking for a medal. It's the assistant section leader's business to make pickup. He's the chaser, the last man in, expendable. The squad leaders have other work to do. As you've no doubt gathered by now, the assistant section leader isn't necessary as long as the section leader is alive. So he's like, well, I'm just an assistant section leader, so I'm going to go do this. He didn't hear it, right? He didn't hear his platoon leader tell him to let Ace take care of it. Right that moment, I was feeling unusually expendable, almost expended, because I was hearing the sweetest sound in the universe, the beacon the retrieval boat would land on, sounding our recall. The beacon is a robot rocket fired ahead of the retrieval boat, just a spike that buries itself in the ground and started broadcasting that welcome, welcome music. The retrieval boat homes in on it automatically 3 minutes later, and you had better be on hand because the bus can't wait and there won't be another one along. But you don't walk away on another cap trooper. Not while there's a chance he's still alive. Not in Raznak's Roughnecks. Not in any outfit of the mobile infantry. You try to make pickup. I heard Jelly order, heads up lads, close to retrieval circle, close to, so move to. Close to retrieval circle, and interdict. On the bounce. On the bounce means what? Quickly. On the bounce, like get there. And I heard the beacon's sweet voice. To the everlasting glory of the infantry shines the name of Roger Young. So this beacon's saying, hey, Roger Young's here for pickup. And I wanted to head for it so bad I could taste it. Instead, I was headed the other way, closing on Ace's beacon and expending what I had left of bombs and fire pills and anything else that would weigh me down. Ace, you got his beacon? Yes, go back, useless. Ace is like, I got it. Go back. I've got you by eye now. Where is he? Right ahead of me, maybe quarter mile. Scram! He's my man. I didn't answer. I simply cut left oblique to reach Ace about where he said Dizzy was, and found Ace standing over him. A couple of skinnies flamed down and more running away. I lit beside him. So he was using his flamethrower. Johnny comes in and stands next to him and does the same. Let's get him out of his armor. The boat will be down any second. He's too bad hurt. I looked and saw that it was true. There was actually a hole in his armor and blood coming out. And I was stumped. To make a wounded pickup, you get him out of his armor. Then you simply pick him up in your arms, no trouble in a powered suit, and bounce away from there. A bear man weighs less than the ammo and stuff you've expended. What'll we do? We carry him, Ace said grimly. Grab a hold the left side of his belt. He grabbed the left side. We manhandled Flores to his feet. Lock on. Now, by the numbers, stand by to jump. 1, 2. So you've got Ace in his suit. You've got Flores disabled, right? Still in his suit. And then on the other side, you have Johnny. Does that make sense? And they're doing like the three-legged race. You have to coordinate, right? So they're jumping together at the same time. What would happen if they jumped off kilter? Like if one jumped not quite the same time as the other. Like they'd either rip Flores apart or one would drop him, right? And then it would just be the one hole. It'd be bad. So they're having to coordinate to move him. Is Ace all of a sudden okay with Johnny being there? Yeah. Because there's a benefit to him. So they're not having to take him out of the armor. It saves maybe a little bit of time, and they'll just jump together. Normally they would take him out of his armor. All right, where was I? He's hurt too bad. We carry him. Yeah, we jump. Not far, not well. One man alone couldn't have gotten him off the ground. An armored suit is too heavy, but split in between two men and it can be done. We jumped and we jumped again and again with Ace calling it, and both of us steadying and catching dizzy on each grounding. His gyros seemed to be out. Remember we talked about gyros being like mechanical devices that maintain balance, but we said that we have internal gyros too? If his gyros are out, I think he means he's passed out. He's unconscious, I think. We heard the beacon cut off as the retrieval boat landed on it. I saw it land and it was too far away. We heard the acting platoon sergeant call out, in succession, prepare to embark. And Jelly called out, belay that order. We broke at last into the open and saw the boat standing on its tail, heard the ululation of its takeoff warning. The sound. We heard the sound. I don't know that word. We heard the sound of its takeoff warning, saw the platoons still on the ground around it, in interdiction circle, crouching behind the shield they had formed. Heard Jelly shout, in succession, man the boat, move. And we were still too far away. I could see them peel off from the first squad, swarm into the boat as the interdiction circle tightened. When you are landing or about to take off from a helicopter, you have a 360-degree perimeter around that bird for what? Protection, security for the ship or the helicopter or whatever it is, right? And as you land, the soldiers get out and form a circle. As more get out, they broaden the circle. On liftoff, you do the opposite. So if you're getting back on the helicopter, you start with a security circle, 360 security. The helicopter or ship would come down. You'd tighten in that circle as the men load onto the helicopter or the ship. Does that make sense? So they are actively loading, and Johnny and Ace and Flores are still too far away. And a single figure broke out of the circle, came toward us at a speed possible, only in a command suit. Who is it? It's Jelly. It's the platoon leader. Jelly caught us while we were in the air, grabbed Flores by his Y-rack and helped us lift. 3 jumps got us to the boat. Everybody else was inside, but the door was still open. We got him in and closed it while the boat pilot screamed that we had made her miss rendezvous, and now we had all bought it. Jelly paid no attention to her. We laid Flores down and lay down beside him. As the blast hit us, Jelly was saying to himself, all present, Lieutenant. 3 men hurt, but all present. I'll say this for Captain Deladrier. They don't make any better pilots. A rendezvous boat to ship in orbit is precisely calculated. I don't know how, but it is, and you don't change it. You can't. Only she did it. Only she did. She saw in her scope that the boat had failed to blast on time. She braked back, picked up speed again, and matched and took us in. Just by eye and touch, no time to compute it. If the Almighty ever needs an assistant to keep the stars in their courses, I know where he can look. Flores died on the way up. So, give me a second. That's rough. I've known a couple. So, the pilot of the boat that came in is like a shuttlecraft, basically. They came in and picked up, they were late. That boat pilot was like, "You've killed us all. You're taking time. You should have." They're probably thinking you should have left him. You should have left Flores. Now we've all bought it. So, but Deladrier, the female captain with the skills, right? Remember, she was able to do some acceleration, right? She was able to adjust on the fly and get down to pick them up. Okay. Yesterday, I think we missed this one in your notes. So back up in your mind, on the drop down, while they were in their capsules, they reached what is known as terminal velocity. Yeah. Ah, good. So terminal velocity, but it's not a set speed. Yes, or the same thing shaped differently. Okay, so terminal velocity is a top speed, air quote, reached when the force of gravity pulling down an object matches the force of the air rushing up, pushing up against that falling object. So have you ever watched like somebody skydive? Wait a minute, has anybody here actually ever skydived? Done skydiving? You want to? I don't know. Or you've seen it done, right? In a movie, TV show, whatever, documentary, maybe, I don't know. Can the skydivers change their shape to slow down or speed up? Absolutely. How many of you, maybe a couple of you, I know at a couple of theme parks, they have like this tube with a blast fan underneath, and you basically replicate what it would be like to be in free fall skydiving. You ever seen those? Anybody ever done that? Have you? No? Okay. So if you move your arms and legs out, you cause more drag, right? You're increasing this force of the air on you. So you'll move up. If you bring your arms and legs in a little bit, you reduce that, and you're going to increase your speed. Your terminal velocity will increase, and you'll go down in that tube. If you bring your arms and legs together and kind of nose down, you'll be like a falling stick, right? Very low air resistance, and you'll go the fastest. So terminal velocity is when in free fall, what is that top speed that you reach when those forces match? But I have air quotes around top speed because it changes based on the air density, the drag of the object, and the gravity pulling down. In your notes, we'll use this a lot this semester. Earth's gravitational pull produces a certain acceleration on falling objects. Does that make sense? It's 9.8 meters per second squared. 9.8 meters per second squared is acceleration due to gravity on Earth. In yesterday's reading, it said that the G on this planet that they're landing on, and they just took off from, is 0.87. Do you remember that? If you don't remember, it's okay. We read it yesterday. So what you can do to figure out what the acceleration due to gravity is on their planet is you'd say, well, if it's 0.87 that of Earth, you just take 9.8 meters per second squared, so 9.8 times 0.87. So the gravity there is more or less powerful than Earth? It's less powerful. By how many percent? 13% less than Earth's gravity, which means if you're falling, your terminal velocity, all else being equal, would be higher or lower?
Higher.
Lower. Because it's pulling you with less force, right? So I think, is that what, maybe more easily, right? Because there's less gravity pulling on them. She asked if, is that why they can do the double jump? Yeah, the lower the gravity, the more they would be able to more time they could spend in the air. The moon's gravity, for example, our moon's gravity is 1/5 that of Earth's, I think. I'd have to look it up. So if you could jump like this, I'd probably just jump like 3 inches off the ground. If I did that same amount of force and a jump on the moon, it'd be 15 inches off the ground. Does that stand to reason? Quick math, okay? We're okay on time. Any questions on acceleration due to gravity? Pretty good. Did we yesterday in this class, I'm not sure if we did, talk at all about actually calculating acceleration? Okay. Let's do like a real world example real quick. I'm going to erase this now that we have it. You were the only class that didn't get this yesterday. Remember, you're my guinea pigs. So let's do one. Let's say, well, first of all, let's just write this in your notes. This circle right here, A with a line over it means average acceleration, okay? Sometimes I'll write it as just A for acceleration. Acceleration is equal to, does everybody know what this triangle is? It's a delta, which means what? Change, okay? So in physics, acceleration is equal to a change in V. What's V? Velocity divided by the change in time. In other words, you take how much the velocity changed, divide it by how much time it took for that change to occur. Does that make sense? So let's say you had a car. So I got one driving already, and all the rest of you will probably driving the next 2 years. A car is running down the road. Let's say it just started to accelerate. It's behind. Oh, let's say it happened to me yesterday in the bus. I was behind a tractor. Okay. So we were doing like 20 miles an hour, which is pretty fast for a tractor. It definitely had a road gear in that thing. Okay. So we were doing 20 miles per hour. That's going to be our initial, all right, our initial velocity. And then we accelerated up once the tractor pulled off. I went up to 55 miles per hour. Everybody got it? So this is my initial velocity, and this was, or speed, right? I didn't tell you anything about the direction I was going. And this was my final. It probably took, I don't know, I mean, I wasn't like hammering down or anything, but it probably only took me 6 seconds. Let's say, maybe make the math easy. Let's call it 5 seconds. Just to make the math easy, okay? I'm not saying I did it that fast, although that wouldn't be crazy. We can put that in the formula to find what our acceleration was. So we're going to say A equals, now we're going to put the final velocity first. So we're going to say 55, and we'll leave the units off for expedience. 55 minus 20. So our final minus our initial, and we're going to divide that by how much time it took to do. So it took 5 seconds, okay? So what is 55 minus 20? What is it? 35. 35 miles per hour is the change, right, in speed. If we included, nothing changed about the direction we were going. And then we divide that by 5. 35 divided by 5 is 7. Good. So 7 what? Well, this is that's 5 seconds. So our units, we've got a positive number here, right? 7's a positive number. So we're adding 7 miles per hour per second. There are 2 units of time because the first unit of time is in our speed unit, and the second one is in how much time it took to change the speed. Does that make sense, everybody? So Now, in the problems you'll see in the textbook or on a quiz or something would probably be like meters per second, because it's a science class, right? We do metric. But that's how you could have meters per second, or just meters per second squared. Good, good. Yes, I had a question right there.
What is the last one?
Right here? VI is V initial. Remember I told you you take the final minus the initial? That's what this is over here. Yeah, it's just broken down more. Good. I'm glad you saw that over there. Kind of skipped showing it here and just went to using it. Yeah. So what does that mean? It means while I was, as soon as the tractor pulled off, I started to speed up. I sped up 7 miles per hour per second. So the first second after he pulled off, I went from 20 miles per hour to 27 miles per hour. Another second passed, and I would have been going 34 miles per hour. Another second passed, I would have been going 41. You guys see what I mean? That's how that works for average acceleration. Now that's if it was pretty steady, which, it was. Questions, comments, concerns? We're almost out of time. All right. That's it.